Going on again, guys. I wanted to give another real quick video today because I decided to do some work on the bike and I discovered something I'm not sure has been topic in conversation before. It may have missed it, but here's a video for those that have not seen it. And some of you that don't know, I do have the T-Rex center stand, and I am in the process, or I have already done it, mounted the JNS lowered foot peg mounts. I also have the tusk shifter and foot peg. That's unimportant for this video, but just pointing that out. So I discovered a problem when I was installing the foot peg brackets. I had already had the T-Rex center stand on there from a previous install. I've been waiting for quite some time to get the JNS brackets, just like everybody else was. And when I was installing them, I realized there was a bind on the pivot for the center stand. I can't comment on Happy Trails or any other center stands. I just know what I have, which is the T-Rex. So the center stand, for those that don't know, mounts to the bolts that go to the peg brackets. Well, what I discovered, the bind, I started doing some looking, and I took the stock foot peg mount, which you see here, that has the rubber bushings in it that everybody either loves or hates, and I measured that thickness. That thickness is between 17 and 18 millimeters. It's really hard to measure because of how the bushings sit on the inside of the brackets, but took a few different measurements. 17, 18 millimeters is about what I'm coming up with. Then I measured the JNS brackets. They're only about 9 millimeters, 8.5, 9 millimeters, somewhere in that neighborhood. Now JNS does give you shorter bolts for that reason. So this has nothing to do with JNS, not their fault. They designed it the way they should have designed it. The problem here being is they didn't design it for a center stand, aftermarket center stand setup, such as T-Rex, maybe Happy Trails. I don't know about that one, as I said. So you can't use the bolts that come with the JNS brackets because they'll be too short for your center stand setup. The bolts that come with your center stand setup should be long enough, which mine were. But the problem is, since the brackets are so much thinner, it runs the center stand brackets up closer to the bike, which causes a bind on that center stand pivot bolt. If I can get a focus here. I'll go around the other side and give you a look from over there as well. Same deal over here. You have the center stand bracket. There you go, there's a better view. Mounted to the foot peg bolts. And you can see mine no longer has a bracket. Moves around quite nicely. If anything, maybe just a little loose, but I have plenty of room for adjustment. So, go back over here because this is where the better light is. All I did for now was I found some nuts, just some hex head nuts, that were about 8 millimeters thick. They're not threaded on, they're just a size larger than the bolt. Those might be 3/8 nuts, I'm not sure. But they slide right over the collar of the bolt to act as a spacer between the center stand bracket, which is this, and the foot peg bracket, which is this. Now you'd like to think you could put them behind the peg bracket, give you more spacing out, make your pegs essentially wider. My concern is with that is that would be a weak point for standing on the pegs. Not concerned too much about the weak point being on the center stand bracket itself because, I mean, it's holding up the back end of the bike. It's not holding up a 200-300 pound man, you know, standing on the pegs going down a bumpy trail. So decided to put the spacer between there. Maybe eventually I will have somebody make me I don't know if I mentioned this. Those were about 8 millimeters thick. Closest thing I had. So maybe eventually I'll have somebody make a plate that can go behind the peg bracket, which will bring the pegs out 7-8 millimeters. I mean, every little bit counts. Probably not it's probably a non-issue, but that's what I decided. Just stuck some nuts between Let's see if I can get in there. There are 2 washers, and that is, you take out that hex nut, and that's essentially the T-Rex hardware setup. Those 2 washers were already in there. I just stuck a nut between them, so that worked out very well. So that's it. That's all I did. Just wanted to bring it up to those that may come across that issue. Maybe you already have. Another thing too is without this spacer or hex nut, whatever you end up using in there, these bolts are really too long, and they dig into the frame tube on the back side of this bracket. So that's probably putting unnecessary stress on these welds. So that was kind of my first clue of what was going on. Everything was just test fit. When I discovered the problem, discovered there was a bind on my center stand. But I think I am all well and good now. For now, I'll leave it this way. I say temporarily, but it'll probably be forever, knowing how I work. So that's it, guys. Just another quick video. Hope it helps somebody. Take her easy.